Hello everyone, Manus MacLean here reporting for Brain Drain Newsroom, where we go deeper than the headlines and keep our eyes fixed on what matters. The human reality behind U.S. immigration policy. It's Wednesday, October 29th, 2025, and today's broadcast brings both progress and perspective. We'll examine a major operational shift at USCIS that changes how applicants pay their filing fees and what that reveals about modernization and accountability. New polling showing a national shift towards compassion and reform. Local communities stepping up to fill gaps in federal programs. And finally, what this all means for the future of legal immigration and for organizations like Brain Drain Unlimited Foundation, which bridge the space between policy and people. So let's begin where the headlines meet the system, with a change that might sound technical, but could reshape the entire filing process. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS, quietly rolled out a major operational change today. And while it didn't dominate cable news, it's a big deal for anyone navigating the U.S. immigration process. Starting October 29th, today, the agency will no longer accept cash, personal checks, or money orders for most paper-filled visa applications. Instead, applicants will be required to pay digitally, either by credit card using Form G1450 or via direct bank transfer using a new Form G1650. This comes directly from the Times of India report this morning, which confirmed the change and noted that it applies immediately to employment-based petitions, family-based sponsorships, and naturalization applications filed by mail. Now, at first glance, that might sound like a bureaucratic footnote, but here's why it matters. For years, payment errors have been among the most common reasons for delayed filings or rejected applications. When USCIS returned a petition for a bounced check or mismatched payee, the applicant could lose weeks, even months in the queue. In immigration law, time isn't just money. It's status, opportunity, and often survival. By forcing a move to digital-only payments, USCIS eliminates one of the most human but painful errors in the process: the bad check, the expired money order, the incorrect fee. From a policy standpoint, it's also about accountability. Digital payments create audit trails, prevent internal mishandling, and reduce administrative overhead. But advocates are watching closely. While it modernizes the system, it could disadvantage those without bank accounts or credit access, especially asylum seekers, elderly applicants, and some refugees. In short, modernization without equity risks becoming exclusion. At Brain Drain, we see this kind of change from both sides. It's progress, but it's also a reminder that access isn't equal. If you'd like to help support individuals who struggle with system access, from translation help to basic digital literacy, you can join our volunteer network at braindrain.org/volunteer. Next, public opinion shifts toward legal pathways. For years, immigration reform has felt like a political stalemate. But a new Boundless Immigration report suggests the American public may be moving faster than its politicians. In a nationwide survey, nearly 60% of respondents now support permanent legal status for immigrants who have lived in the United States long-term, and a similar number back a path of citizenship for those brought here as children. That's not just a data point, it's a cultural milestone. To put that in context, 15 years ago, Gallup polling showed less than 40% support for comprehensive reform. In just over a decade, public sentiment has flipped. Why? The reasons are complex, but two stand out. First, exposure. More Americans today live, work, or study alongside immigrants. That daily interaction humanizes what politics often distorts. Second, fatigue. The constant cycle of border crisis headlines have left many Americans craving pragmatic solutions. According to Boundless Immigration's editorial, people are tired of fear-based narratives. They want results. That shift could have real consequences. When broad support for reform builds at the grassroots level, political courage tends to fall. For organizations like Brain Drain, this is the window of opportunity. Public opinion is softening. Awareness is expanding. If there's ever been a moment to amplify the voice of skilled immigrants, now is that moment. If you're watching this and wondering how to make an impact, this is the time. Donations, volunteer hours, or simply sharing this broadcast, it all builds momentum. Go to braindrain.org/donate to stand with us. Next, resettlement at the local level, the power of partnership. Now let's move on from national policy to local action. In Columbus, Ohio, a coalition of churches, law schools, and private employers has launched a program called Welcome Works, focused on credentialed immigrants, professionals who are teachers, doctors, and engineers in their home countries, but find themselves underemployed in the United States. The program started small, just 3 apartments and a few donated laptops. But today, it's an entire network of support, housing, English classes, and job placement. The difference? Collaboration. Law students handle asylum filings pro bono. Churches provide housing. Local tech firms offer apprenticeships. And the results are undeniable. According to international data shared with the Columbus Dispatch, over 80% of participants found meaningful employment within 6 months. This isn't an isolated success. Similar initiatives are emerging in Houston, Raleigh, and Philadelphia, where Brain Drain Unlimited operates pilot programs connecting displaced professionals with regional employers. It's a new model, immigration reform from the ground up. When national policy stalls, communities step forward and real lives change. If you're near one of those cities, reach out. Even a few hours of mentoring can make a difference for someone restarting their career. Visit brain.org/volunteer to get involved. Now, for the work of Brain Drain Unlimited, before we continue, a quick message from the mission that powers this broadcast. Brain Drain Unlimited Foundation exists to help highly skilled immigrants, scientists, doctors, educators, and engineers continue their work after displacement or forced migration. Our programs offer legal navigation, career matching, credential translation, and policy advocacy. Every story we share here connects back to that purpose, rebuilding capacity, one person at a time. If you like to support this work, whether by donating $25, volunteering for an hour, or simply sharing this video, you're part of that impact. Visit braindrain.org/donate to contribute or braindrain.org/volunteer to lend your expertise. Let me add, we're growing, we're getting stronger, we're winning. Join us. Together we turn brain drain into brain gain. Now back to the news. When modernization meets inequality. Let's return briefly to the USCIS digital payment reform we mentioned earlier. Advocates for low-income and refugee applicants have raised an important concern. What happens to those without banking access? According to a Migration Policy Institute brief, Nearly 10% of U.S. immigrants remain unbanked, meaning that they rely on cash-based systems that the USCIS has just eliminated. For some, the digital shift will make filing easier. For others, it can make it impossible. This is where nonprofits like Brain Drain become essential bridges. In Philadelphia, we're piloting workshops that help applicants open basic bank accounts and use online payment systems safely. That's small-scale work with big implications, turning digital exclusion into empowerment. In many ways, this is the story of modern immigration itself. Technology advances faster than equity, and community fills the gap. Now for border crossings and policy rhetoric. Meanwhile, along the southern border, new data from the Customs and Border Protection shows a sharp decline in unauthorized crossings, continuing a trend that began earlier this year. For the first time in 5 decades, total encounters have dropped below the 2010 average. That statistic, cited by Boundless and Reuters, challenges the ongoing narrative of a border crisis. It also raises a bigger question. If the crisis has cooled, what should the next national conversation look like? Policy experts at the American Immigration Council argue it's time to refocus on long-term system modernization, clearing visa backlogs, addressing green card wastage, and fixing outdated caps. Because enforcement no longer dominates the headlines, we have space to discuss strategy. And that's exactly where advocacy groups like Brain Drain want to steer the public discourse from fear toward function. The economics of inclusion. Let's take a step back and follow the money. Immigrants contribute over $2 trillion annually. That's trillion. To the U.S. economy, according to the data from the New American Economy. When skilled workers are allowed to integrate fully, to practice, teach, invent, entire nation benefits. A study from the Brookings Institute this month highlighted that every 1,000 foreign-born professionals who are able to re-enter their field increased local GDP by up to 50 million. For Brain Drain Unlimited, that's not theory, it's Tuesday. Our clients are case studies in unrealized potential. If you want an America that maximizes talent, support that cause directly. Again, that's braindrain.org/donate. Public policy momentum. Momentum is a fragile thing. It builds quietly, and if ignored, it fades. But tonight, the indicators are encouraging. USCIS is updating systems. Americans are shifting toward empathy. Communities are filling policy gaps, and advocacy networks like ours are gaining visibility. That's what forward motion looks like. Not drama, but direction. Policy doesn't change overnight. It changes when reality outgrows rhetoric. And make no mistake, we're watching that growth happen now. What it means and what comes next. So what does this all add up to? Here's the takeaway. The system is modernizing slowly but steadily. The public is more open than at any point in recent memory. The border narrative is cooling, and at the local level, compassion is outperforming politics. This moment is not the end of the immigration debate, but it may be beginning of its evolution. Our role at Brain Drain is to make sure progress reaches people, not just policies. If you believe in that mission, here's how you can help. Again, donate, braindrain.org/donate. Volunteer your expertise, mentoring, translation, outreach, even driving someone to an appointment. Subscribe and share this broadcast. Amplify the stories that get overlooked. I'm Manus MacLean, and this has been Brain Drain Newsroom, your source for facts, not fear, context, not clickbait, and people, not politics. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time.